Star Wars and anime are no strangers to each other, with the sci-fi franchise even having its own anime anthology series, Visions, airing in 2021. It even had its own manga adaptation in the 90s, as well as other spin-off manga in recent times. So this made me wonder, which anime characters would be the best Jedi? No powers from their series, just plopped into the Star Wars universe. If you didn't know, Jedis are Force users who adhere to the light side of the Force, believing in peace, democracy, justice, and are incredibly selfless. You see the selflessness in their belief that the Force is more important than their own individual desires, and how they practice love and compassion for all beings, but in a non-possessive way. Now, even within the Star Wars universe, there are exceptions and every being has inherent flaws, but that is the ideal. So with this definition, let's look at arguably the biggest anime character and see if he would be a good Jedi, Goku. First of all, how cool would it be to have a Force Spirit Bomb? I mean, the Spirit Bomb already works by getting energy from all living beings, and in Star Wars, the Force is said to reside in all living beings. So like, the formula is there. Like, that shit would be metal as fuck. Just imagine like Jedi Goku drone striking Emperor Palpatine in a Death Star with a Force Spirit Bomb. Oh, also, any character I talk about in this video, just assume that there's gonna be spoilers for their series. Anyways, when it comes to Goku, I can actually see him being a really good Jedi. It's no secret that Goku has a strong love of all life and defends it from countless galactic threats time and time again. He's given up his life multiple times for the sake of others and is extremely compassionate even towards his enemies. I mean, this is a guy who spared Vegeta and spared Frieza, even sharing his energy with the latter despite him being a genocidal tyrant who killed his best friend. And although he did kill Frieza in the end, it was really after Frieza fumbled like 2 acts of mercy in a row and attacked Goku, so really it's arguably self-defense. And even then, Goku still showed remorse. Not only that, but when Goku killed Kid Buu, who was like the literal embodiment of evil, he was still compassionate towards him and wished him to be reincarnated as good. Meanwhile, you have Twitter users wishing death upon each other over their slightly different opinions on things. So needless to say, Goku's level of compassion and sympathy for other people is comparable to Obi-Wan showing sympathy for Maul after cutting him down, despite Maul's life mission basically making Obi-Wan suffer and even killing his former love. Darth Maul, more like Darth Mauled. And Goku sparing Frieza despite the numerous atrocities he committed towards his own people and the galaxy is comparable to Luke Skywalker believing in the good in Darth Vader. Except in this case, Luke arguably had more of a personal motivation to do so considering Vader was his own father. I don't know about you, but Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan are some of the best examples of what it means to be a Jedi, so being compared to them is a pretty good sign for Goku. Couple that with the fact that Goku is a natural prodigy when it comes to both martial arts and ki manipulation, and he would probably be one of the Jedi Order's best duelists and one of the strongest in terms of force powers. Now, the obvious criticism of Goku is that he can be a bit selfish when it comes to his desire for fighting, and one can argue that his love of his friends and family are a bit possessive. However, if Goku were a Jedi, I don't see it being that big of an issue. For one, besides maybe early Goku, a lot of the time he spared enemies were for other reasons. Whether it was being merciful and believing in the good in others, or trying to push his son to go X Games mode on Cell. And if we're gonna talk about Goku giving Cell a senzu bean, let's not forget that Yoda literally could have wiped Asajj Ventress off the face of the planet after disarming her, yet decided to give her lightsabers back to her and let her escape. So if we can give Yoda a pass for his little Alzheimer's moment, I think we can give Goku a pass too. Also, I think it would be pretty funny if Goku and Yoda met. Like, I'm pretty sure Goku would just think he's like a Namekian or something. Anyways, last thing I want to know is how Goku is said to be pure of heart multiple times, so I think as a Jedi, he would ultimately do the right thing. Another anime character that I think would be an amazing Jedi is none other than Edward Elric from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and the manga. Edward would be an amazing Jedi for a number of reasons. For one, he also deeply values life, protecting it and showing mercy to nearly every one of his enemies. He talked down Winry from shooting her parents' killer, Scar, helped talk down Roy Mustang from killing Envy, the embodiment of a cardinal sin, and even sacrificed years of his life force literally in the name of mercy. Also, since he lost limbs trying to resurrect his mother and learned a harsh lesson from that, I think it would help him practice the Jedi's non-possessive love. He accepted that his mother was dead and that he couldn't change that, compared to Anakin, whose turn to the dark side was partially motivated by his own mother's death. Furthermore, Anakin's goal of saving Padme also led him falling to the dark side and doing things he would later regret, whereas Edward refused to use the Philosopher's Stone to achieve his own goal of restoring his limbs and brother's body after finding out that the stone used human lives to power it. So I think the chance of Edward falling to the dark side is really low. Oh, and side note, it would be cool as hell to see Edward with Anakin's robot arm. Now, despite his pacifism, however, Edward also won't hesitate when needed to defend innocent lives as well as ones that are close to him. Like Goku, Edward is also a prodigy, becoming the youngest state alchemist at the age of 12. So no doubt he'd be one of the fastest Padawans to become a knight, if not a full-blown master. He was incredibly skilled as a martial artist, keeping up if not defeating a majority of the enemies in his series, most of whom were also skilled martial artists as well. So I also think Edward would be one of the most formidable duelists in the Jedi Order. However, where I think Edward would really shine is in his Force powers. Ed is incredibly intelligent, having a near encyclopedic knowledge of his universe's magic system, alchemy. I mean, dude would study it day in, day out, and had a pretty much complete mastery of it, and was even able to make creative uses of it in the middle of a fight. I mean, Ed had such an understanding of alchemy that he was able to talk to Truth, which is like the god in Fullmetal Alchemist, and quote-unquote beat him by understanding his true nature. Truth and FMA is also said to be inside every living being. I think like every living being has like their own gate of truth, right? And the Force in Star Wars is also said to reside in all living beings. So, you know, that's another parallel you could draw. So translating this to Force powers, I think Edward would be strong as hell in that department. I think he'd 100% be reading through every holocron, finding out esoteric knowledge about the Force, and applying it in new and unique ways. Oh, and last thing I wanted to say, Alphonse would totally be either Ed's like kick-ass droid companion or like Dirge. Y'all remember Dirge? That guy was badass as fuck. They should totally bring him back. And you can't tell me his armor don't look similar to Alphonse. And like Alphonse, he doesn't really have like a regular humanoid body underneath his armor, so I mean I think that would be cool as shit. Alright, so next character I wanted to talk about is Guts. Probably not who you would think of when you hear Jedi, but I love his character too much not to at least mention him. Plus, it would be baller as hell to see him wield like a giant oversized lightsaber. I mean, come on. Like, you can't tell me that wouldn't be cool. Just imagine like he's wielding this giant ass slab of a lightsaber and just fucking swinging it at like fucking like giant ass Star Wars creatures and like cleaving them in two in like one hit. Alright, so for Guts, I could see him as like a Grey Jedi, which is like a light side Force user who doesn't adhere to the strict codes of the Jedi Order. And who can blame them, because in practice, a lot of the times the Jedi just end up being like these geriatric boomers in space. So think like Ahsoka Tano. Guts has always been pretty skeptical of larger organizations and prefers to work alone, so I think this would fit him. However, I could see him as a Jedi in the Clone Wars, and instead of losing the Band of the Hawk in the Eclipse, he loses his Jedi comrades in Order 66. Now, after Order 66, I could also see him becoming a Dark Jedi, or a dark side Force user who doesn't adhere to the Sith code. I could see this at Guts' lowest, such as in the Black Swordsman and Lost Children arcs. I mean, he definitely had that rage and darkness within him, which he wasn't afraid to channel when fighting his enemies. Not to mention the lengths he went to defeat and maim them. I think he'd have similarities with Starkiller, who definitely tapped into the dark side but wasn't an official Sith. And like Starkiller, where his love interest, Juno, was one of the reasons he was brought to the light side, I see Casca being the anchor that brings Guts back to the light side as well. So maybe he'd be like Revan, where he kind of has a journey from like the light side to the dark side and back to the light side again. Although I could also see Guts as just like a bounty hunter in Star Wars who, instead of hunting down apostles, he hunts down like dark Jedi and Sith lords. You'd have kind of the same dynamic where like these darksiders, just like the apostles, would like heavily underestimate Guts, you know, just because he's like a non-force sensitive or he's not, you know, like an apostle, and Guts just like completely blows away their expectations and just like murks them. Anyways, next character I wanted to talk about is Naruto. Now, I actually haven't finished Naruto, believe it or not.
I can't believe it!
But from what I have seen, I do think he would be a good Jedi. I mean, right off the bat, he's a great fighter, and his mastery of jutsus indicates that, like other characters mentioned, he'd probably be really strong in terms of lightsaber dueling and force powers. I mean, in his own series, Naruto continually inspires and encourages the best out of people, which is also something great Jedi are known for. And he did this through his kindness and compassion, which, like Goku, he showed time and time again, even to his enemies. I mean, they don't call it talk no jutsu for no reason. I mean, he was able to appeal to the good within Obito and Sasuke, both of which you could draw some parallels with to Darth Vader.
He's a sap!
And what's more impressive is he did this while resisting the negative influences of the nine-tailed fox, which basically hated humans and even changed the nine-tailed fox's mind. So as a Jedi, I don't see Naruto getting tempted by the dark side at all. So in Star Wars, I could see Naruto being like a Padawan who, instead of dreaming to be Hokage, he would dream to be like the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. And honestly, I could see him achieving that. Alright, so the last character I wanted to talk about is Gojo. Now, I know a lot of people think Gojo would be like this great, super OP Jedi, but I actually think he'd be a great Sith Lord because